So I'm Elaine Ellingham, President and CEO of Omai Gold. We're on the TSX Venture Exchange under the very distinctive symbol OMG. We have a past producing property in Guyana. It was actually, when it was in production, the largest primary producer of gold in South America. So we've been exploring it for about 3.5 years. We have put out three 43-101 resources. We're standing at about 2 million ounces in the indicated category and 2.3 in the inferred. So we have 2 orogenic deposits, and basically we did put out a PEA last year. It was just a starting point for us, but still a very healthy net present value of 560 million US. Looking at a 13-year mine life, averaging 142,000 ounces of gold per year. But we consider that just a baseline. It was a good milestone for us, but we've been drilling about 14,000 meters of additional drilling last year and another 8,000 meters already this year. And so what we're doing is working towards our next resource estimate. And on the second deposit, we put the first drill hole since 2007, and that's a second orogenic deposit. So yeah, a huge project, and we're very well funded. Did a big financing earlier this year, as you know, Matt. So away we go.
Away we go, indeed. OMG, right? That's Matthew Gordon in this case. Right, we're gonna talk about Wenot first, if you don't mind. You know, you describe it as having multiple subparallel, near vertical gold-bearing zones with a regional shear system. Most people don't know what that means, so let's focus on the drilling. What you put out some numbers, drill results in February and in March. They look very encouraging, but to what end? What type of drilling are we doing? Why are we doing it?
So before last year's PEA, we focused on above 350 meters, because open pit mines, as we all know, shallower is cheaper mining and the most attractive. So, you know, we had already defined a 2.5 kilometer long deposit down to about 300 meters, and that was the basis of our PEA. But what we've done is we've started drilling underneath down to about 400 or 450, because of course with this is going to be like a super pit, 2.5 kilometers by 1 kilometer already, based on the PEA. And so drilling down that next level, what we've encountered is much higher grade, and that's what you've been seeing in some of those results.
Right, and then let's kind of get into the kind of the model that you've kind of created there, in terms of that kind of dike corridor, you know, down to the kind of sedimented host zones, you know, and how they interrelate. How are you interpreting that to be able to kind of drive, I guess, the drill modeling, the targeting, and the type of data that you're actually chasing?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, when you don't have a lot of drill holes, you start to get a sense of what the model is. As you start doing more and more drill holes, it kind of comes together. Obviously, we have a good leg up because the small area was mined before, and so we understand what was there. So when we step out, you know, there's a good understanding. I guess what's unique about Omai is that there's, you know, a lot of gold deposits. You know, these are orogenic, so often shear hosted for Wenot. And usually they're just one zone, but at Wenot there's multiple subparallel zones. In fact, they go across 400 plus meters. So when we drill, we're drilling through all the different zones. You know, we do inclined holes, angled holes, so you go through zone all the way down. With the step outs to a lower level, what we are proving basically is that the dike corridor in particular, which is a very wide zone, it actually just gets better and better at depth. So some of the recent numbers we had the best drill hole ever we announced early this year, 4.48 grams per ton over 57 meters, right? We're talking open pit mining. And so, I mean, as you know, a lot of deposits are sub 1 gram. Looking at 4.5 grams over 57 meters is just shocking. So we did adjust based on that and a couple other very successful holes. We've adjusted our priorities. So we have been looking at drilling 150 meter spacing on all the different zones, because we believe that's the best way to expand the resource. But now we have these very, very wide, high-grade zones. What we've been doing is trying to drill 50 meters either side of them. So again, when they're that wide, that's going to really add ounces to our resource quickly.
Well, absolutely. Like, and that 4.48 you mentioned earlier, that was sort of within the kind of current pit shell. In terms of, okay, at depth, you're obviously going to chase that, and you talk about 100 meters step out. So are you obviously chasing this along strike as well, and looking to maybe expand the size of the current pit shell?
We actually will do that a bit, but even within the old resource, there were huge gaps that were not in the resource. And it was only because there were no drill holes there. When it's 2.5 kilometers and you've got 5, 6, 7 zones across, we didn't catch all of them. So what we've done is we worked very closely. We model it, and we identified all the areas where there were 150 or more spaces between between the holes already. So those ones will actually fill in ounces within that area, and it will still expand the resource. And
right. So are you imagining then that within the 2024 PEA that there's kind of areas, I guess, identified as waste currently, which you're going to get after with some more of this this infill and step out exercise to kind of increase the resource conversion?
Right, and that's actually even more important, because if you can increase your resource within that body, you reduce your strip ratio. More economic mining. So basically, what we're aiming for right now is to do an updated resource for Wenot. That's really our main objective. It's answering the question, how big is this thing, right? And we don't actually have to extend it along strike. We can, but we can actually add ounces within what we've already within our area. So that we could actually do an updated resource right now, because we did the 14,000 meters last year. We're already at 8,000 meters this year. And so, but with the success that we're having, it makes sense to just keep expanding on these zones.
Right. So we should expect to see you focus mostly on well, just demonstrating the scale potential of this. And how much of that do you think comes from the infill? How much are you sort of targeting coming from the kind of the step outs? Because they say you could put something out now, I suspect, but you want everything you can get in there, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And also remember, the old resource was really focused at above 350 meters, so we're taking it down another 100 meters. And the other reason to do that, and remember, 100 meters along 2.5 kilometers is a big area. So we know from our previous resource that each 100 meter slice hosts 1 million ounces. Okay, so as we step down that next slice, you can expect that we're probably going to add that. And the good news is, from what we've proven with our these recent holes, is that the grades appear to increase with depth. So you can expect that kind of addition down there, which is great in itself. But we're also going to be expanding the ounces above that level. So we've also, as you probably remember, the western part of Wenot, well past where there was any previous mining, that's been extremely successful. We have almost 1 million ounces out there alone, and so some of that did not get into the PEA because we didn't have some of the shallow drilling, and we didn't have the drilling to kind of close it off. So right now, actually, I was just down there. We just started a couple of shallow holes on that as well. And so we expect that also will, so there's two things we're doing. We're working to expand the ounces, but we're also anticipating that next PEA, that next economic study, which is going to be quite significantly different from the one we did previously last year.
Yeah, because you kind of got this kind of lateral expansion going on versus the deepening of the zones, which is great, and I'm sure your perspective as you continue to drill will change. But you've also got, at the same time, you've got this sort of open pit versus this potential for underground with these slightly higher grades. I mean, how does that affect your decision making in terms of the type of drilling that you're doing and where you're drilling from?
Yeah, it's a great question. The general assumption is that Wenot would be an open pit, and certainly a lot of it would be. But when you start getting grades, like especially in the current gold price environment, get 4.5 grams over 57 meters, and I think the more recent one was 5.2 over 19 meters. So those are grades that could support underground mining. So that decision comes when we start modeling it and doing the work towards the economic assessment, right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah, for sure.
right. Now, remember, that's only one of the two deposits. So the other deposit is only 400 meters away, the Gilt Creek deposit, right?
Yeah. But just before we kind of leap onto that one, because obviously you say this is potential to be something significantly big, and the grades are also increasing. But so sticking with the kind of what could be bits. So have you done any kind of conceptual stope modeling below, say, 450 meters to try and understand the type of mining that you could be looking at, whether it be longitudinal stoping or cut and fill or whatever you're thinking? But when does that sort of process of trying to understand what the future looks like begin?
Well, some of the really impressive zones we only started to hit sort of in November. So I think that we need to find out what we're dealing with first. So, I think the drill is probably, the most important part of that. If it's, we do have some indications. Some of those wide zones are up to 600 meters apart. So the question is, as we start drilling in, is it actually 600 meters long of those high grade zones? Until we have some reasonable spacing on that, that's the dream, that's the fantasy. But we've got to put some drill holes to see if it holds together.
Right. Okay. So more to come on that. Let's go to Gilt Creek. Right. So you got some pretty wide intervals, but with slightly different grade profiles. So again, tell us what you're seeing there.
Yeah. So the Gilt Creek deposit was mined. The upper part produced 2.4 million ounces from an open pit. Right. So there had been some drilling done by Omai Gold in 2007, and so they'd identified a resource down below, which we did a 43-101 on, and it was about 1.8 million ounces. 2/3 are indicated, so pretty well drilled. So we had not drilled that. So we had said we were going to do 2 drill holes, one before the end of last year. So we did that hole. It was a 1,200 meter hole. Basically we drilled 780, almost 800 meters of intrusive, mineralized intrusive. So a bit of an odd duct. This is, these are not porphyries. These are orogenic gold deposits. So, you don't tend to get, 770 meters of mineralized zone. So it's in the intrusive, and basically we drilled the drill hole actually went a little bit off on the azimuth, and we did consider wedging it to bring it to exactly where we were aiming, and then we went, well, let's see what's out there. Basically, we are in the exploration business, and so we kept it going, and we stayed in intrusive. We decided we would keep going till we came out of the intrusive. We never came out of the intrusive, so we did prove that it extends beyond the limits that were previously thought, which is really important. We found obviously there were some higher grade. So the whole 774 meters, it actually averaged 1 gram. Not great for underground, but to have a mineralized intrusion like that is amazing. And there were higher grade portions, of course, right? So quartz veins with visible gold, but also what we found is the intrusive itself is mineralized. So it's pervasive throughout the intrusive, not just in the veins, not just in my quartz veining. So yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I think proving that the intrusive is larger than previously thought is really quite critical.
I guess that's the kind of nature of orogenic. So to that end, so how do you choose to get after that? Because chasing it at depth has cost implications, even if the mineralization you still haven't got to the end of the mineralization, versus maybe creating something which you can mine via open pit initially. So what are your plans for 2025 with regards to drilling?
Yeah, so for Gilt Creek, no, too deep for an open pit. Now we did show that with our drilling, the mineralization came to within 225 meters from surface, which is pretty good, but you would still do a decline, and that would be underground. Our resource was at an average grade of about 3.2, which they're big wide zones, obviously. So we believe that would be economic, especially at today's gold price. So we do want to keep working on that. We have a second hole planned. We're just adjusting it based on what we drilled in that hole. So we expect to start that one. Really, it's all hands on deck for Wenot right now. So the 3 drills are just powering away at Wenot. And when we're sort of ready to slow down on Wenot to do the resource, then we'll put one of those drills up on Gilt Creek and do a second hole.
Right. Okay. So are you at that point where you're continuing to work on trying to understand the kind of structural or lithological controls before you kind of commit to the how and the where with the drilling?
No, I think like it's an intrusive, so it's a cylindrical thing. We have the historical drilling actually. There's 27,000 meters, so we have a good handle on it. So we, it's sort of like kids in a candy store. It's like, which way do we drill? We have a lot of choices, but what we want to do is basically, we want to space it out from the other one, and we probably will go a little steeper and go a little deeper.
Okay. So all of this, for people non-technical, is it, what we're saying is it's big, it's probably even big enough, but it can be a lot bigger, and that's what you're chasing at the moment. So more drilling in 2025 is what we can expect to see. And as I say, you've raised over $25 million earlier this year in February. So you're good for 2025 drilling.
Absolutely, yeah. We're still sitting with over $30 million. So
right, okay.
Yeah, that was really
rarefied air. Rarefied air.
We spend carefully, and we try and put the money in the ground because that's where you really get the results and the valuation improvement. So I mean, we're still trading at probably around, I would say, $38 per ounce of resource that's indicated and inferred. So we consider that still pretty modest relative to some of the companies in the Guyana Shield. And as you know, it's a brownfield site, so we know the metallurgy from historical records, got the good road access, things like that. So we think it's a fairly easy project to develop. And it's certainly one of the favorites with the government because, there's a strong memory of the old days of Omai and how successful it was. But, realistically, in the it operated for only 10 years, obviously in a really low gold price environment. But, we'd like to see a longer mine life. Our last year's PEA was 13 years, but as I said, that's just a starting point. So, in the next, when we go to the next PEA, we're really aiming for a 20-year mine life.
Okay. So it's interesting in terms of that kind of cost control in an environment like this. Usually, sometimes when a place gets hot and busy, people are, competing for drill rigs and costs go up. So, I mean, how are you managing that?
So our drillers are orbit Gerant right now. And so, we have 3 of their drills. I think there's another one in Guyana or in Georgetown. So, if we could potentially put a 4th drill on there as well. The team's working really well. A lot of the people we have been with us for 3 years. We've been trying to expand the Guyanese team. We had 2 of our Guyanese geologists up for PDAC. That was as exciting for them. A little bit overwhelming, I think. But as we all know, PDAC is an awesome event, and for geologists from Guyana, it's just a world of learning, right? So. So we don't seem to have any issues attracting people. I think it's the reputation of Omai historically, and frankly, I think we run a very very positive work environment. So that hasn't been an issue. On the drill costs, our all-in costs are still sub $200 a meter, and that's averaging in all our in-country costs. So that includes the assays. And obviously, with the drill holes that we drill, you'll see that a lot of the holes have multiple zones. So it means a lot of samples get assayed. And so we're really fortunate in Guyana, too, because there's 2 assay labs right in Georgetown. And even for Canadian projects, there aren't that many projects that you're a 4-hour drive from your assay lab. Right? So,
it was impressive. PDAC, your stand was mobbed. I was there. Barely speak to you, but it was good to see you there, and I'm sure your team had a great time. With regards to following on from the kind of low drill costs, sub $200 in this environment is exceptional. But things like metallurgy this year, obviously done a bit of work on that. Will you continue to do some of these other non-drilling activities as well to kind of get a sense of maybe what the economics could look like when you kind of look to maybe redo a PEA at some point in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the metallurgy we want to do on Gilt Creek. We can do some on Wenot, but basically we would be mining the same horizons that were historically mined, so not much difference. Just because of the historical records and the fact that the operation of the basically processing plant would be very similar to historical. May be sad for our business, but the reality is the way that you process gold hasn't changed profoundly. So it would be very similar. So where we would do the metallurgy would be the intrusive. So now on that hole we drilled, we might do some selective intervals, but basically we want to focus on the grades that would be the grades that we would be mining. And so some of the intervals in that hole were not the grades that we would be mining, so we wouldn't do metallurgical test work on those. Does that make some sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Timing's everything on all of these things. Well, look, I just wanted to quickly dive in there and speak to you again because, the stock continues to move, definitely heading the right direction. A lot of momentum behind this, and Guyana is very much in the spotlight, at the moment. So appreciate time today, Elaine, and we will speak to you very soon.
Great. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Matt.